1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I'm Precious D.
And I'm Honeybee.
We are going to be watching and discussing monster movies, specifically giant monster movies, also known as kaiju or daikaiju.
Daikaiju.
And we're going to try to start at the beginning and move forward chronologically until we catch up, which could take years. So that means we are beginning in 1933 with King Kong.
The year is 1933.
In the middle of the Depression. Everything is crap.
Everything is crap. We are very sexist.
We are, and very racist.
Very racist.
So this movie, well, Honeybee, what did you think? You had not seen it before, right?
I had never seen it before. I actually haven't seen a lot of these movies. A lot of these are going to be first timers for me. So I didn't really know what to expect. It was interesting. I mean, it was fun to watch a movie from 1933. You know, it was a very big deal culturally, right? Like it was a huge deal cinematically, and it's crazy to be able to watch that movie and to see that and to laugh. It was a good laugh.
Yeah, it was a big hit. It made a ton of money just in like 4 days on 2 screens in New York. With ticket prices between 35 cents and 75 cents, it made
What?
the budget was $672,254.75, and the box office was 5.3 million.
Wow. And movie tickets were 35 cents.
35 to 75. That might have depended on where you were sitting in the theater or just how classy the theater was.
Okay.
But yeah, it made huge money in its opening in New York, and then eventually played everywhere. And then back then they would maybe run something again they'd re-release it a few years later. And of course, eventually it made its way to television. I first saw it as a kid. I'd seen clips many times, but I first saw it all the way through at a friend's house. And that was back in the days when you had to check the TV schedule and see when something was coming on. And if you weren't there on time, you missed it.
Oh, man. The glory days.
Yeah, the struggle was real. So anyway, you for the most part enjoyed it.
I did. But wait, before that, let me ask, when you watched it as a kid, were you scared? Did it scare you? Did you believe that King Kong was a huge monster? Was it believable to you? And what year was this?
I mean, this would have been probably around in 1984 or 5. If I'm remembering correctly, this was a friend that I knew in high school for just a brief time. He moved to town and then he moved away. But no, I don't think I was actually frightened.
Okay.
I was familiar with stop motion animation, so I knew how it was being done. I'd already at that point seen countless Rankin and Bass holiday specials, so I knew what sort of effect I was looking at.
I see.
It's hard to say how people at the time took it.
Right.
I mean, but the effects were, for the time, they were as good as they got.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. It was a big deal then, but I just wonder if it was believable because of the stop animation and just because what I'm saying, I guess, is I'm not sure if it's so ridiculous because, I grew up watching movies that are so realistic, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's I just wonder if in 1933, when you were watching this motion picture and this huge King Kong comes on, was it scary? Was it Was it believable?
I don't know. I would say, considering the amount of money it made, that people were impressed, or
Hmm.
they would not have gone back to see it or told their friends to see it. So I think it was the spectacle. This was sort of the first summer blockbuster. People think Jaws was the first summer blockbuster, but really this was. And I think they probably bought it. They were
Yep.
not as jaded as we as we are.
Yeah.
Speaking of the stop motion, it was done by Willis O'Brien.
Shout out.
We'll see his name a few more times in some of these movies coming up. So let's get into the movie itself. Directed by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack, who may be my favorite last name of a director. Produced by both of them. Screenplay by James Krellman and Ruth Rose. From a story by Edgar Wallace and Marion C. Cooper. And I've actually read the novelization of this. This was not based on a novel, but this was an early example of them putting out a novel based on the screenplay to help
Oh,
the movie, which is pretty standard now, but I think was a fairly
new thing then.
the version we watched had an overture.
Yes, it did.
A 4-minute long overture. Apparently, as I looked into it, because this used to be kind of common, especially if it was a musical, the movie would have an overture, but this overture was actually inserted later. There was not an overture when it originally ran. American Movie Classics or Turner Classic Movies, or one of those people, sort of created this overture and inserted it for a later release. But then we get the credits. Kong gets a credit as the eighth wonder of the world. So they're trying to make us think he's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it opens up with this old Arab proverb, which is a lie. This is not an old Arab proverb. Gosh, I didn't write it down exactly, but it has to do with when the beast saw beauty, from that moment he was dead. And this is the theme that they're trying to tell us that this movie that has, is that the beast is weakened by his love of the beauty. I would argue that is not the actual theme of the movie.
Arguably so.
But we'll get to that. Then it starts with the exposition boys come out on a dock and talk about Denham and what a wild card he is, and explain to us that he makes these jungle pictures. And one of these guys is the theatrical agent who's come to see Denham, and the other guy's just someone for him to talk to so that we can get some exposition.
Right.
And the guy goes on the boat and explains to Denham, you got a bad reputation for being dangerous. I am not hiring any girls for you. I'm not sending any actresses for you to put in your picture, because they might not make it back alive.
Right.
So that's great. That's our introduction to our hero. You're a dangerous lunatic, and I'm not. I cannot, in good conscience, send a woman to you to work for you.
Yes. Enter stage left, our damsel in distress.
Oh my God. So yeah, he's like, I got it. Well, he's got a boat full of, do we see the gas bombs in this first scene? He's got to get moving in a hurry because the monsoon season's coming and he needs to hire a girl quickly. So this movie does not shy away from the period it is made in. It puts the Depression front and center. And this is important because Denham knows that there's got to be desperate girls out there, because they almost exclusively refer to women as girls.
Girls.
I think Fay Wray gets called a woman once. The rest of the time she is called a girl, and all the.
I think also one time she does get called a love interest.
Yes. Yeah. The public, my public, won't like my picture if it doesn't have a love interest in it. So I gotta hire somebody. Denham knows that everybody is desperate, and he can find some hottie who is so hungry and poor and desperate that she is willing to go on this dangerous trip with him. And that's what he does. He goes straight to like a bread line, but none of them are hot enough. And then he finds Fay Ray and Darrow about to steal an apple and says, "That's the desperate hottie I need."
That's the hot, hungry, homeless girl I'm looking for.
And keeps her from getting busted by the fruit vendor, and then takes her to a restaurant, buys her a sandwich, and convinces her somehow to come with him. And she hesitates for a moment, but then he just says, "Oh, I'm on the square." And she says, "Oh, well, since you said that you're on the square, you must be on the square. So I will come with you, a man who I have just met, and
Yes.
hopefully you will not murder me immediately."
Take me to the money, adventure, and fame.
So throughout the film, she is so grateful to Denham for rescuing her from the street, that she is willing to do and go and say whatever he wants without question. I was going to say this doesn't work out well for her, but actually in the end, she's fine. She's traumatized, but she survives, which many people do not. So
This is true. This is true.
so good for her. Somewhere here, I had the death count of this movie. It's pretty high.
Does the death count include monsters?
It does. It does.
Nice.
And Kong himself. So
Oh, wah. Spoiler alert! If you
yes,
haven't seen it.
spoiler for this almost 100-year-old movie. Kong does not make it to the end of the movie.
Wah.
Honeybee, what would you say is the theme of this movie? What do you think this movie is about?
I feel like there were so many points in the movie where I thought I knew what was happening, and then I would just say, like, what? When did this happen? Like, did I miss something? It would be just from one second to the next. It just changes. I could not tell you. Like, what is the theme of the movie? Is it a romance?
Right.
Is it a monster movie? It was really strange. I couldn't put my finger on it.
So clearly the movie thinks the theme is Beauty killed the Beast. Right. But I believe that the theme of this movie is Whitey gonna white.
Oh, yes, which since we're there, I feel like there was a guy in sort of this point in the movie where we're now headed to Skull Island, and he has just like this horrible fake Chinese accent.
Yes, we looked him up to make sure he was actually Chinese.
Oh my god.
Like, how racist is this? Is this yellowface? He is Chinese. The man's name is Victor Wong. He plays Charlie, the ship's cook.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in 1906 in, you want to guess where? You want to guess where he was born?
Where was he born?
Los Angeles, California, United States of America. So I'm fairly certain that this man speaks flawless English, like anybody, or as well as any American speaks English. And I'm also fairly certain that in none of the many films he was in from 1932 to 1945, that he was allowed to display his natural born command of the English language. He was probably always forced to speak in this ridiculous
horrible
English. But that said, he is a horrible stereotype, but he is on the ball. He's the one that notices that Anne is missing off the boat and alerts the ship. And he is, for the most part, he's treated with respect by the crew. Nobody calls him racial slur. I mean, this is the bar we're setting for the of the movie. Nobody calls him any bad names or anything. So he's treated, and Anne seems to be on good terms with him. She seems to like him just fine. But yeah, he's an unfortunate stereotype of the time. What if I told you that Kong himself is racist?
Ooh, is it?
Well, many people see some racial coding in the character of Kong,
Oh.
that he represents the big, dangerous, sexually charged black man who is coming for our white women.
Oh
That
my
that
gosh.
this movie is a follow up to Birth of a Nation, and that Kong is a metaphor for something.
Wow.
Many people read the movie that way.
Hmm.
I don't know that that was anyone's conscious intention when they made the
Right.
movie. Supposedly, Cooper had a dream about a giant ape tearing up a city, and that's where he got the idea. But that doesn't mean the coding isn't there. It may or may
Hmm.
not be conscious, but even if we put that aside, even if we are charitable and give them, the filmmakers, the best of intentions,
Right.
this
Still.
movie is still all
Still.
about whitey being whitey, about white
Yes.
dudes acting like white dudes, in that they think everything is there for them to exploit.
Hmm.
They go into this island, they go to this island that they have not been invited to. Denham's looking for Kong, but he doesn't seem to know what Kong is, but he's heard of Kong, and
Right.
he's looking for it. So they come to this island, they stumble onto this ceremony where they're
Right.
preparing
They're
a young girl.
offering.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
preparing a young girl to be the bride of Kong. And I have a lot of questions about that. These people have been living there, we don't know how long. They appear to be isolated from the rest of the world. There is this great wall that some civilization has built to keep out Kong, whatever it is. We don't know yet. And we don't know if it is their ancestors who built this wall or some separate civilization, and then these people came there later. But they have made this cold calculation to sacrifice one of their own in order to preserve the rest of them. And it's working. It seems horrible to us, but it is working. And these white guys come in and fuck it all up.
They fuck it all up.
Now, at first, there's also some drive-by racism here, where the chief sees the white woman and
Ah, yes, the golden woman.
and at first I thought, well, of course he wants to give Kong this outsider instead of one of his people. That makes sense. But then I was watching it again, and I'd forgotten. He offers 6 of his women for Ann Darrow. So he does think she is in fact more valuable than his women,
Hmm.
and assumes that Kong will also find her more pleasing. On the other hand, if he gives 6 of his women for her, that means 6 of his people can leave the island. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm giving the chief too much credit. Maybe he's trying to save them. Let's see how many of my women will these dum-dums take off the island for me. And I'll sacrifice their lady to Kong. But of course they say no.
Right.
Oh gosh, let's go back and talk about Jack for a minute, though.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Jack
please. Oh, Jack.
Jack Driscoll. The 3 main characters all have last names beginning with D. I don't think that actually means anything. It's just a thing I noticed. Carl Denham, Ann Darrow, and John Jack Driscoll. Another theme of this movie that no one else seems to have noticed is that it is about a young man coming to terms with his sexuality.
Oh my gosh.
Because Jack doesn't like women.
He does
They're
not.
gross. They're
In
gross.
fact,
They got cooties.
He literally says at some point, women can't help being a bother.
Yes. Now I don't know how long this man's been at sea. Maybe he's only had relations with men, or maybe he's never had any relations at all. But during the course of their journey out there, he goes from, ew, gross, girls don't belong on a boat, to, well, I reckon I love you.
No, within what? Okay, it's like the first however long, and they're traveling to Skull Island. However long that takes, he doesn't like women. But from one moment to the next, Jack decides that he is in love with Anne. I mean, from 1 minute, I really put in my notes. I guess I love you now. Since fucking when? Like,
Yeah.
what just happened?
So he acts like a total jerk to her, but then he's nice for 2 seconds. So she's like, I guess maybe I love you too.
Yeah, I
And
was
I don't know,
very confused.
maybe to her it was just it's an early example of negging, that he's like, well, if I treat her like crap, she'll like me. And then she's like, well, why doesn't that guy like me? I guess I better make him like me. I don't
No,
know.
see, this is when Anne was a little girl, there was a boy on the playground that punched her in the face, and her
Right.
mom was like, "That just means he likes you."
Because the first thing he does is accidentally punch her in the face. And then doesn't exactly apologize, just sort of acknowledges, oh, I guess I smacked you pretty good.
And she's like, "Oh my
Hey,
gosh, he loves
I
me."
like a girl that can take a punch. But having said that, he is a I don't know what the hell he is, a mess, but he is the only one that expresses any concern for Anne's safety. Because
When she gets kidnapped?
early on when they're still on the boat and Denham is having her practice being terrified of Kong,
Oh,
of
uh-huh.
whatever they're going to find in the mountain, he's like, what the hell is he what the hell is he expecting to find out there? And then when they're going on the island, he's like, we shouldn't be taking her with us, it's dangerous, which is sexist and condescending, but at least he is showing some concern for her
Yeah,
safety.
some concern. Yeah, right.
Carl
Totally.
Denham is not. He's not showing concern for anybody's safety. Not his, not hers, not Jack, not Charlie's, not anybody's. But anyway, they get to the island. The natives tell him to screw off. Oh wait, let us have your blonde lady, and they say no, and we'll just come back later. And surely they'll want to be friends with us, because who wouldn't want to be friends with a bunch of random white guys that show up uninvited? And they go back to the boat, and the natives get in their little rowboats, kayaks, whatever, and come out and kidnap Anne.
Right.
And who can blame them? Seriously though, if these outsiders are going to come spoil your ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
why not sacrifice one of them instead of one of your people?
Right.
So they kidnap her. As I mentioned earlier, Charlie's the one that notices she's missing, and they all go to the island to get Anne back. And I believe this is one of those rescue missions where more people die in the rescue attempt than are rescued, which I always think is poor math.
Oh, yes. So disappointing.
They go to rescue Anne. They find her tied up, being sacrificed to Kong. I believe the natives are chanting and beating drums, and she's tied to the two pillars, and Kong makes his big entrance. And I wrote down, Kong enters, Honeybee laughed.
It was a lot of buildup for
For the Bumble from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
oh my goodness. Enters Kong. I just like it was hysterical. It just really was.
Okay. But it's old, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it was very impressive at the time.
Of course.
But Kong takes Anne, rather gently unties her. So this is where I have questions. Yes, this is where I start to have questions. What is the nature of this sacrifice?
Yeah, agreed. Because it gets weird, right? Like Kong gets weird.
Yeah, and we don't know. Kong doesn't eat her. She wouldn't be enough to fill him up. He's got to be eating other stuff out there. He's probably eating a lot of plants. He's not exactly a gorilla, but I think he's intended to be a gorilla.
Right, gorilla-like.
Yeah,
Gorilla-esque.
Yeah, but he doesn't. If you want to nitpick, his coloration's wrong. He stands upright, but I think the filmmakers intend that he's a giant gorilla. He's clearly an ape of some kind, so he probably mostly eats plants. But we don't know. Did he eat the other brides? Does he treat Anne differently because she's white with blonde hair and therefore a new thing he hasn't seen? Has he done with the other brides what he did with Anne, which is just basically make her a doll?
Yeah.
he has. Throughout the movie, when he's tearing stuff up later, he bites some people He kills some people by
Right.
biting them, but he doesn't chew them up and swallow them. He doesn't eat them. He does drink the
But
blood from a neck of a dinosaur.
yeah, which also, can we just talk about
It's awesome.
I was so confused in the dinosaur chase scene,
Uh-huh.
the fight scene, because what is the dinosaur? It looked like a long neck to me, and I'm like, don't these dinosaurs also only eat plants?
Uh,
The the
I think it
first
was
dinosaur he fights.
was it a brontosaurus? I don't. You know what? I did find my list of deaths. So it should say there's a giant lizard, there's an allosaurus, there's a giant snake, a prehistoric vulture, and a pterodon. So I guess the first one is
Okay.
just giant lizard of some kind. Oh, there's a stegosaurus, but Kong doesn't kill the stegosaurus. He is shot in the head by Whitey. So Kong takes Anne and goes in the jungle and fights some monsters, and the Denham and Driscoll and the crew chase after. They run into various dinosaurs. Jack does not know what a dinosaur is. I guess he's never been off that boat. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. He doesn't know why it's of the dinosaur family, and I don't know how he doesn't know what dinosaurs are. They were discovered, in 18 something. They've been around. They were the first one was discovered in like 1809 or something, and they were the name dinosaur was coined in 1849. They're around enough that somebody made little models of them to put them in this motion picture. So I don't know how it is that Jack doesn't know what a dinosaur is.
Well, Jack is pretty. He didn't have to learn anything. He's a pretty white man. So there you go.
But speaking of the dinosaurs, I think Denham really missed the opportunity here. I think he's made a mistake. He wants to once they rescue Anne. I'm jumping ahead a little. We'll go back. Once they rescue Anne, and he uses his gas bombs, which he brought along with him. He wants to take Kong back to New York.
Right.
It seems to be why, and it's unclear if he knows what Kong is or not. But he has these gas bombs because he knows he's going to need to gas something huge. But there's dinosaurs. Yes, Kong is an unusually large gorilla ape, but we have those. You can go to this and see one. The dinosaurs have all been extinct for millions of years, except the ones on this island. I think that is your real moneymaker there. And being as they're just dumb lizards, they're probably a lot easier to control than an intelligent primate. So I think his decision to take Kong back instead of one of these dinosaurs is his biggest mistake. Maybe? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it's just strange to me that if there are dinosaurs on this island, that Kong is even is even a thing. Why do we care? Well, how the whole, it's just silly also because in the monster fights, in the dinosaur fights, it does seem like in these monster fights that the monsters were like going for, what's her name, Anne? Like they were like, he was protecting Anne. So I think maybe that was what the monsters were for, was like another weird way to show you Kong's weird fucking relationship with Anne, is like he's like protecting her. It also felt like another reason to gun down a bunch of natives. Like, no, like, they're like trying to save her and killing all of these people. It was very confusing. So the whole monster fights, every monster fight, like the first one, I was like, wait, doesn't this dinosaur eat grass? And then the second one, I was like, why are we killing all of these natives? What is this? I guess this is 30s gore for you. Yeah. Is these big monster fights. But yeah, taking Kong back to New York instead of taking a dinosaur. I think once I found out there were dinosaurs, I was like, what the hell is, why is there Kong? Like, why are we afraid? We should be, This is just our concern is in the wrong place.
Now, it may be also that part of the whole sacrificing the Kong thing is a protection racket. That it's not
Oh, like he's protecting them.
right, right. It's not so much we give a girl to Kong so that he'll leave us alone, but so that he'll keep the
The
dinosaurs away.
dinosaurs away. Okay. All right. I'll
Now,
give you that.
I had an idea that if Kong doesn't eat the brides and just uses them as pets for a little while and then gets bored, maybe on the other side of the island, there's like a whole little civilization of brides of former brides of Kong.
Who run the world, girls? Who run the world?
They're just over there hunting dinosaurs and
That's where the real badass
their own-
bitches are.
yeah. So I want to see that movie.
Yeah, same.
But eventually they manage to rescue Anne. And Anne is not, speaking of their relationship, she's not into it at all. In other versions, Anne has some sort of sympathy with Kong and rapport with Kong. This Anne, it just screams. She just, which also reinforces the idea that Kong is some kind of racial coding in that she is not into it at all. She is just straight up terrified of him. And continues to be throughout the movie. And you can't really blame her.
Yeah, because there's like parts where he's like undressing her and then
Yeah.
like smelling her,
Yes.
smelling her clothes,
Smells
smelling
her
his
finger.
fingers, like after touching her. Like it's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
strange.
He's definitely a creep. But if we are to accept that he is a metaphor for something else, then her reaction is a metaphorical as well.
Right.
And that's not great.
Yeah, fuck that.
But eventually they do rescue her and take her back towards the shore where the village is, and Kong comes after them and wrecks the place. This is where, they had this deal going for probably centuries, if not thousands of years. And this one group of white guys shows up and it all goes to hell, and Kong destroys the village, stomps on multiple people, bites a couple of people to death. I did find my death list. It says eaten, but he did not eat anybody. He just bit them.
Maybe it was like implied that he was eating them since the little figure didn't have much mouth movement.
Right. I maintain he is actually a herbivore and just bit them to death. He didn't swallow. Kong doesn't swallow. Make of that what you will.
Ahem.
So they eventually they gas him, they put him on a boat, they take him back to New York, where Denham gets the bright idea that he is going to put on a show where he exhibits Kong to the public.
Brilliant.
Yes.
After everything that has happened, this is his idea.
Yep. He's seen how brutal Kong is, but he thinks this is a good idea. So he rents a Broadway theater, he buys some chains, and he charges $25 a ticket.
Ow!
Because we hear a guy say, "What's this show? This show cost me $25. These tickets were $25 each. This better be a good show." And we already mentioned that movie ticket was 35 to 75 cents.
25, yeah.
So $25 is a pretty pricey ticket in the middle of the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that is at this show is a rich fat cat. So screw them. Anne is there with Jack. They're apparently dating now.
Yes, they're in love since yesterday. So
I don't know why Anne has agreed to be there. because she's so terrified. They open the curtains and everybody oohs and ahs, and things do not go well.
What happens next?
Kong breaks loose, everybody loses their shit, and he goes on a rampage through the city.
Like you do.
At one point, he sees a woman through a window that he thinks is Anne, grabs this poor random woman, smells her, I guess, figures out it's not her, and just drops her.
Which
Like,
I will say is a famous reference that I have seen a few times and did not know was a famous reference until seeing this actual a movie I can think of, like The Nutty Professor, you know, when he like is dreaming that he's stomping through the city and then he sees whatever his love interest in the movie's name, I can't remember. He like sees her in the window and grabs her and picks her up, you know?
I do not know. I have not seen that.
Okay.
But
Oh, okay. Well,
but yes, I
there you
agree
go.
though that it is referenced.
Often.
The Kong thing, Kong looking through the window at somebody is
Yes.
referenced often.
Yes, often. I have seen it a few different times. And of course, I knew because I had seen it a few times that it was from something. But when I saw that, when he like sees the woman, and I was like, oh, okay, shit, that's the famous see through the window, grab you, I'm a giant.
Yeah. You know, when I was a kid, there were as I would see watch old movies, I would see all these Bugs Bunny jokes that were all references to various old movies. So as I saw more and more classic movies, I'd be like, "Oh, that's where that thing.
That's what that's
came
from.
Oh, that's who that actor is. That thing that made no sense in that cartoon."
Right. That's why that's funny.
It was a reference to Treasure of the Sierra Madre or whatever. It's been a while since we actually watched this. I can't remember how he actually gets his hands on Anne, how he ends up finding her. But he does. The city full of people. He finds Anne. He wrecks some trains. And then, of course, famously, he climbs up the Empire State Building with Anne. And the police are, throughout this whole rampage, the police are constantly keeping Denham in the loop. I don't know why. I don't know why they should care what he has to say about anything or what his input on anything is. But at one point, somebody, either him or Jack, says, airplanes, he's going up the building, let's get airplanes. Back on the island, we did see Kong, I think, go to high ground for safety. So that's what he's doing here. He's climbing up the Empire State Building to try to get to safety. And somehow they get these airplanes. Denham just orders up some airplanes or something. I don't know. It's unclear to me. Are these police airplanes? Are they army airplanes that are just laying around ready to go, just waiting for an emergency? Because we're between wars at this point. So I don't know why these planes with machine guns mounted on them are on call, but they are
readily available.
But they quickly deploy some airplanes, 4 airplanes, and shoot Kong full of holes.
I want to say too, during this whole situation, there is several times where Kong sets Anne down.
Yeah.
And all she does is just stand there and scream.
Scream. Yeah, she never
runs. She never tries to get away unless she's in his hand.
Right. Some people freeze up and panic.
That's true. That is true.
I don't know where this is from, but there's a thing recently where it's like a quiz show thing. I think it was on the street. The man is asking the question, name a woman, but he's doing it in a frantic way. Name a woman. And they're like, any woman, name any woman. And the person he's asking can't do it.
Right.
Because they freeze under the pressure. And I think it's even a woman. She could name herself. Me.
I've seen someone do this with hiccups too, like hiccup in my hand to like get rid of your hiccups, hiccup in my hand.
So I guess I can buy that Anne just freezes up and doesn't know what to do, but it is also, sexist and condescending, and because of course it is. And also Kong has to have his hands free so he can smack this plane around or eat this train or whatever he's doing, but for plot reasons he's got to be able to find her right away.
Right.
He puts her down, and I think Jack and a couple of cops get up to the top of the building to find her.
Yeah. Right.
And Kong gets shot full of holes and falls and dies.
Right.
Probably on top of somebody, I'm not sure.
A lot of somebody's.
And the movie ends with this famous line.
Well, Denham, the airplane's got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was Beauty killed the beast.
Fuck you. It was the planes. It was the planes in the moment, but it was you, ultimately. You killed him. You went to his home, took this beast out of his natural habitat, put him in the middle of a city, and got him killed, and got all these other people killed too. And that's how the movie ends. It just
And it
ends
just
right there.
ends when he looks at Anne one more time before
Uh-huh.
he falls to his death.
Right.
It was beauty that killed the beast. Credits.
Yes. So Joe Bob Briggs, who's a guy that used to present movies, he had an expression: "Monkey die, everybody cry." I believe this was a summary of the proper way to end a movie, because once the monkey's dead, that the story's over. So just wrap it, end it there.
And boy, did they.
Yes, no need to deal with any of the fallout or repercussion.
Yeah, don't take any responsibility.
Denim does not take any responsibility. But we will see next time in Son of Kong whether or not Denim is held responsible for his irresponsible actions.
Interesting. So let me ask, does is the Mighty Joe Young, is there anything related here with that?
Yes,
Okay.
there is, and that is on our list.
Okay.
That is the third thing on our list.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It was several years later, but it's a lot of the same people.
Okay.
Schoedsack directs it. I think Cooper was involved with it, but Robert Armstrong, who plays Denham, is in it.
Oh shit. Okay.
I believe it was written by at least one of the same people. It's not connected plot-wise,
Right.
but it is connected thematically. They went back to that well again.
I see.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I think they did it better that time.
Nice. Okay.
I think Mighty Joe Young is much less problematic than King Kong is. Yes, story, Mighty Joe Young, story by Marion C. Cooper, screenplay by Ruth Rose, who was one of the writers on this one, produced by Marion and directed by Ernest B. Schoedsack.
Oh, another Schoedsack.
Yes. And now here's a side note. I have not yet seen this movie, but I've heard of it. I've seen a remake of it. The Most Dangerous Game.
Okay.
Have you heard of it? Have you seen it?
No, I have not.
The Most Dangerous Game is humans. Game as in it's both the game you play, but game as in the thing that you hunt.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Humans are the most dangerous game. A guy on an island is hunting human beings. It was made at the same time. It's also by Marion C. Cooper, also stars Armstrong and Fay Wray. And they would film, and they use the same sets. They filmed it during the day and filmed Kong at night for the island jungle stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a monster movie, but it is a classic movie that was made at the exact same time that this one was, featuring a lot of the same people. So that's just some of the weird, probably cost-saving stuff they used to do back then. Similar to Dracula, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, they filmed a Spanish language version at the same time using the same sets and costumes, but the Spanish cast and crew would come in at night and film, and the English-speaking cast and crew would film during the day. Then they were able to release 2 films for the price of one, or the price of 1.5, probably. So, like I said, I found my death list. There are 65 deaths in this movie.
65.
There's counting the creatures and Kong. There's a Stegosaurus, multiple sailors, giant lizard, Allosaurus, giant snake, prehistoric vulture, pterodon, 2 natives, then 2 more natives, several natives, then civilians, 5 civilians, women, elevated train motorman, 22 people in train. I don't know where they got that number.
Yeah. And I also feel like if we're actually looking at it, it would be more than 65.
Well, I guess these are ones on screen. So I don't know where they came up with that calculation of 22 people on the train. And I printed this out. I forget now which site I found this on. So I don't know who to question about this. but then a plane pilot and a King Kong himself. So I think as we go through this, whenever we can, we will mention the death count, what various monsters were in the movie, and whenever appropriate, where does this fall on the racist scale? 1 to 10.
Yeah.
0 would be not at all racist, and 10 would be Birth of a Nation racist. Straight up, the Ku Klux Klan are the heroes of the picture.
Right.
Where on that scale would you say
Oof.
this movie is?
Oof, man. It's pretty freaking high up there on the scale. I was I wasn't ready for it, to say the least. Not that I have watched a lot of movies from the 1930s, but I wasn't ready.
Oof. Well, I'm always ready for that because, again, when I was a kid, you just watched what came on the television. So you'd be sitting there on a Saturday afternoon watching some black and white movie with Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney, and there's this nice little movie with some singing and dancing in it, and then suddenly somebody will be in blackface performing
Ay,
a
Dios mío.
song and doing some minstrel show nonsense, and you're like, oh, that's
Oh shit.
what's good. And I'm just a little kid, but even as a little kid, you're like, wait, what is happening here? What is that? Doesn't seem right. And of course, these days it would ruin your career, but and rightly so. So
Rightly so.
I guess I'll give it a 8 on the racism scale.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like an 8.7.
That's very precise.
8.8. It's close to a 9.
But it is a classic, and we did enjoy it. Just aware of the context of when it was made, and because I don't want the goal of this show to be to come in and shit on everything.
Of course.
But we also have to address what's there.
Right. The problems of movies in 1933. I mean, culturally and historically, it is a big movie. It's a big movie. Heard of this movie. I have seen it referenced. Now we're in this huge like Kong versus Godzilla times, so of course it does come up a lot, the King Kong, but I had never seen the original, so I am glad to see where it started and where it is now.
And we will we're going to make our way through these things chronologically, so we will get to more Kong. Of course, our next up is Son of Kong. But then there won't be another one for a while. Eventually we'll pretty quickly get into the Godzilla stuff. But as far as the current things go, let's do just a little bit of kaiju news. My copy of Kong versus Godzilla is in the mail and will be here Thursday.
Ooh.
Godzilla versus Kong. King Kong versus Godzilla is another movie, which I already have a copy of. And the Asylum has announced that they are doing a movie called Monster versus Ape. Familiar with the Asylum?
Negative.
The Asylum is a production company that brought us Sharknado.
Okay.
But they are also known for making what are called mockbusters, which are movies designed to trick you into accidentally renting them instead of the movie you meant to watch.
Oh my God.
So they've made movies they do a lot of these sci-fi original movies like Three-Headed Shark and Four-Headed Shark and Five-Headed Shark and the Sharknadoes. But they also do things like Transmorphers, I Am Omega, The Day the Earth Stopped, War of the Worlds, which came out the same year that Tom Cruise War of the Worlds came out. Things like that. They did Atlantic Rim the same year that Pacific Rim came out. Okay. So they will rush out these cheap knockoffs to cash in on some bigger, better movie. So they have Monster versus Ape coming out. I don't know that we'll watch a whole lot of Asylum movies, but we might do that one once we get to it. And in other kaiju news, Netflix is debuting soon a new Godzilla anime.
Oh.
Called Godzilla Singular Point. It's already available, I think, in Japan on Japanese Netflix. but it'll be available on American Netflix soon. I got the impression from some online groups I'm in that some people are just changing their IP addresses and watching it already.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm going to watch that when it comes out, but we will cover that eventually when we get to it.
Awesome.
So, I hope you people are, somebody out there is along for the ride with us, and we will be back next time to talk about Son of Kong.
Son of Kong, follow us. Come with us. Take a ride. Relax. Enjoy it.
I have been Precious D.
And I'm Honeybee.
And this has been Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/MNFTG.